Laci, welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We're so excited to be here. We're such big fans and just love what you're doing.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. We've been talking off camera, and I will say, it's so lovely to hear somebody talk about utilizing some of the videos and information from the podcast to implement in both your stores as well as your showroom. And so thank you for that very much.
100%. It's very much heartfelt, and the whole team, like I said, we just really enjoy your content and have really been learning and looking forward to continuing to.
That makes me so happy. Laci, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your brand.
I sure will. So I'm Laci Hewitt. I started Saltwater Boys about 4.5 years ago, July of 2021, just honestly, accidentally. I was working as a nurse during COVID at the hospital locally, and we had just had a baby. And so I was home on maternity leave and told my husband, I'm just going to make a shirt to sell in Facebook mom groups. And we have boys. And so I said, I'll make them for our boys and friends and family, that kind of thing. And the first month, it literally took off just almost vertically.
What? Okay, so tell everyone where you're based out of, because the Saltwater Boys has a reasoning behind it.
Oh, 100%. Sorry, I should have led into that. So at the time we started the brand, we were living on St. Simon's Island, Georgia. And so that is a tiny barrier island off the coast of Georgia. And so everybody is like, wait, Georgia has beaches? And I'm like, I know, it's really weird. We do. But anyway, and so our brand really was inspired and built around kind of, saltwater lifestyle, the coast. We have always gone to the Gulf for family trips and things like that, South Florida. And so we've just always really been, outdoor people, beach people. I've said numerous times, I feel like our best quality family time has been at the beach, where we're kind of unplugged and really connected as a family. And so that is a huge piece of the brand identity of Saltwater Boys.
So the t-shirt you first created was a crab t-shirt.
It was.
Did it have any verbiage on it? Was it just an illustration?
It had Saltwater Boys. So we kind of pretty much initially, I would say almost as soon as we came up with our brand name, immediately trademarked the name. And I was very, very surprised that that name was not taken, but it was not. It did take approximately 2 years to get through that process. Wow. But we were able to get that mark and then went back later and captured the mark on the fish. So we have always kind of operated with the logo we currently have, the name we have, and the fish we have. That was right out the gate decision. And so that very first shirt was branded Saltwater Boys, and it was literally just a saltwater crab, I don't know, the size of my fist maybe, on the back of a shirt. And so we have even manufactured that shirt again since then, and people just love saltwater crabs. So I want, before we go into the rest of the story, I want to put a little bit of emphasis on the importance of Facebook groups, because I know a lot of retailers, I'm not on Facebook that often, but there is such a value in the groups, obviously, with what you introduced, this t-shirt, and how you kind of launched it from that and had such a great reaction. Talk a little bit about the Facebook marketplace or Facebook groups, whether they're business or they're as a mom. Sure. So I was already in these Facebook mom groups, and there's quite a few out there, even to this day, centered around children's clothing. A lot of them are called children's resale groups, children's smocked resale groups. There's literally a billion of them, but I was already organically in them, from buying clothes for our own children, selling clothes, things like that. And so at that time,
those groups were not as tightly regulated as I have seen some of them become. It was during COVID and the pandemic, and so I feel like it was just very comfortable as far as rules are concerned. And we posted in there and had a lot of success in those groups. I will say, since that time frame, I have noticed a lot of those groups have monetized, which nothing wrong with that at all. But now you have to pay, and like for a certain amount per month, you can post X amount of times. I will say that's different than what it was at the time when I initially started. But I just took the groups I was already in, I was already familiar with, and began posting there before I jumped off into like building a website out, or some of them were costly, ways to go about it. And so I guess you would say I used those Facebook groups for my proof of concept, is really kind of.
I think that's super smart because the for other question I had right away was you were a nurse and you jumped off and went. You're not the only nurse either. That it's funny that went through COVID that decided what did you create it because I need to get out, or was it I need to find something else to do that brings me happiness because of how much and that heavy weight that nurses carried during COVID?
Yes. Well, everything you just said, agreed and yes to. I have ran into so many nurses, so many teachers, particularly those two groups who were in an occupation and then like segued into a second career in something in a creative space. And I think I loved my nursing career, particularly in hospice. I would say the years I was at the hospital during the pandemic, that was very challenging for anybody and everybody in the healthcare system. Obviously, it was like under strain. Yeah. And so I think a lot of us were looking for like a happy outlet, like something pleasant and fun and lighthearted, if you will. And so for me, that's just how the journey like unintentionally unfolded. I think there were a lot of people like me who also were feeling that just like stress and pressure from working in that like environment and stressful time, and then we're looking for things to kind of channel that into. I know when I was actually in nursing school, one of the things they told us, one of the instructors said was like, find a creative outlet, something that you enjoy, because it can be rewarding, but it also can be very heavy. And so anyways, that's kind of what led me into this, which I thought at the time was just really a hobby, to tell you the truth.
Well, that's how they start.
Yes. And obviously accidentally unfolded into this amazing journey. But I do think that I think it's very important for nurses and teachers, anybody where you're just like constantly giving of yourself, emotionally, physically, otherwise. I think it's like important to have something for your mental health and space that like you enjoy, that's a creative place that you can go to.
That's also something to not just enjoy, but something to be able to focus on something else that you literally have to, like painting, where it's like you have to focus on that. I used to say it about yoga when I would do yoga, and where I was so stressed out. When I was in yoga, you have to force your mind to think about what you're doing, and you have to settle into the painful poses you may be doing. And that there's no way you could think about, Christmas setups or whatever I was doing that I was stressed about or concerned about. That was like a way to completely take all that out and only focus on that. So I would guess along with the creative part and bringing something to joy, it also enabled you to kind of escape.
Yes, 100%. But like I said, I do have, even though the nursing was heavy and can be a lot, there's definitely like things about that I miss, that you don't necessarily have in this job per se. But the one thing I really, really love about, what I do now as opposed to my occupation as a nurse is obviously there's a lot of creative freedom, from social medias to running your ads to designing the clothes. And I really love that. So that's a lot of fun.
So how does a nurse that has no retail experience or wholesale or apparel experience, how do you come up with a t-shirt? And mind you, for everyone listening, this is not just, I'm going to create something cute. There are sizes that go into things just like any apparel. It's like, the breakdown of for pre-packs at the women's end of it, it's like 222 or 221, too small, too medium, too large, 1XL. How do you go about just creating a t-shirt encompassing all these sizes and then just putting it out there? How did you do this?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I think, and I was just having this conversation earlier with a stylist about some things he's doing in his career, but I think the key really is to start. I think perfectionism and like having a plan and having it be like all perfect and buttoned up has probably killed many great ideas.
Yes.
For me, it literally was as simple as I told my husband, I want to buy a heat press to make some shirts. So I did, it wasn't a big elaborate thing. I found one design that I liked. I knew what the name was. I bought the $200, heat press, and I bought the transfers for that very first design. And so there wasn't this big elaborate plan. I didn't really think much beyond that, to be honest with you. And so we printed the first shirt, we put it in the group, and literally the rest just kind of took care of itself. I mean, that's honestly what happened. So I would love to lie to you and be like, oh, I had this plan and it was like this great, vision board, and we worked on it for 6 months, but it really wasn't like that for me. But when I come across people who do operate in that way, I love that. And I'm fascinated by it. But again, that just wasn't my experience.
I think that's great advice, though, because I know that Crystal from Crystal Media has often said, just do it. Like when it comes to social media, like you can overthink it, anything you can overthink and wait. And that procrastination, I mean, nothing kills something faster than that procrastination. It's like, and that perfectionism. But I think that everybody, not only ego wise, but, you think I can't let it go until it's perfect. And I think the longer and longer and longer and longer you wait, whatever you designed in the beginning is now like not even relevant anymore, but it just put it out there. Like just put it out there.
And you're right. That is the scariest part, because I think naturally as humans, like we don't like to be vulnerable. We're scared of being judged. I'll make it about me. I don't like that myself. And so I think anytime we put something out there, obviously all that comes into play and we're like, oh my God, what's Susie Smith, my next door neighbor, going to say? And is somebody going to talk about me for doing that? Are they going to say it's ugly? But I look back now at so much of those first designs that we did, and I'm just, it's definitely not necessarily what I probably would have chosen or designed today. And so there is some of that, but the point is just to start. You can always reiterate. You can always you're going to improve. It's going to get better. But again, I was talking to somebody else earlier and they were like, I want to take this idea to market, and what am I going to do about my marketing materials? And I was like, marketing materials? Like, I don't even know that when we went to market the first time, we had any marketing materials. I think we literally might have had like an Excel spreadsheet that my website developer printed out for me. And that was kind of what we used. And there might have been some business cards. I'm not sure. So it doesn't have to be the kind of lie that I guess, social media or the world wants to sell you on. It can literally be simple, basic. And I think if you have a product that resonates with people, it's not going to take fancy marketing materials to get that off the ground.
Love that. Take us through from the point of the t-shirts blowing up to now, because because we kind of skipped over this, you are a very big wholesaler. You have hundreds of boutiques. Ron John, which is one of my favorite surf shops, carries the product. And then you have 2 of your own retail spaces. So take us through the evolution of how you go from the one crab t-shirt to even just to wholesale, and how you started to develop the line, because it's a full, like you can tell if you were watching on YouTube, you can tell behind you, you have racks, you're showing like a full line of boys apparel. Is it boys and girls? It's just boys.
It's just boys. We only do boys. I only have boys. We certainly are keeping the option on the table to segue into girls. So that is definitely something that may be in the 5-year plan more intentionally than the girls, though. we are going to be adding in the men's in spring of 26. So
Great.
that is a priority for us for sure, because we do get a lot of requests for dad matches, which is apparently a big thing. Even as a boy mom, I was like, wait, y'all want to match the boys? And so with the dads, but it is an actual thing. So we're excited about that. So how we kind of segued, if you will. So, and as I mentioned, we started the brand in July, and I had seen where there was going to be an apparel show in Atlanta, at the market in Atlanta in October, after we started in July. And I already knew when we started in, I would say maybe September, we started having stores reach out to us and say, hey, will you wholesale to us? And so I told my husband, I was like, maybe we should go to Atlanta to the market in October and like walk the floor, walk the market, and find out what that's all about. So we went to Atlanta in October for the October show. And I did something really awesome at that first show, which was I connected with a group called the Boutique Hub, and was able to, as a result of that, make some amazing connections at that first October market. So I reached out to them, a month or so later, and I said, hey, I was at the market in Atlanta. I joined, I met y'all. Do you have any suggestions on some showrooms that we can maybe be in? And so at that point, I just started cold calling or, emailing, if you will, showrooms in Atlanta. And so they were able to help me connect with two. One, I went into and represented myself. And I'm a really big fan of that particular showroom, which is called Best of Show. And I'm also a really big fan of that model. And then the second showroom was a showroom on the kids' floor that had reps. And so within 6 months of starting the brand, we were in Atlanta at the January gift show in 2 showrooms. One was on the gift floor in a gift showroom, and one was on the children's floor in a children's specific rep group showroom. And so between those 2 showrooms and that first January, we picked up like 30 wholesale accounts instantly with like very little effort other than going to market. So that was amazing. The wholesale, business was born really fast in that first 6 months, and we were really off to the races in a strong way. The problem with that was we went from being 100% D2C to almost 100% wholesale because of those big wholesale accounts we picked up really, really early. And that can be good, but that can also come with challenges as well, especially on the cash flow inventory side.
Yeah.
So I would say, even though, there was challenges with that, I still think that was one of the things we accidentally did right that really had a big impact, was not waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 years to get to market, but just going to market. And
one question, and I apologize for interrupting, because there's 2 things I want to go back to.
Sure.
We'll go back to the Best of Show in a second, but so you have the one t-shirt. How many to go to market? It's not like, for those listening, if you create a line and you're going to a showroom, most brands want you to have more than just one style. So so how July till the show in October is a very short window from one t-shirt to a line. Like how many styles did you start with, and how did you develop those? Are you doing the graphics? Because you obviously do cut and sew, you have all these other elements than just a t-shirt on the brand. So to get down to the minutia part, it was like, how big was the line when you brought it to market? And was it cut and sew, or is it just t-shirts? And take us through that.
Absolutely. It's a crazy story. So, okay, we started in July. We went to our first market in October, but that was strictly observatory. So we were not exhibiting. And I always recommend to people, whether they're a store or a brand, like go to market. You can get a hotel room. It's just a great way to immerse yourself in that environment. And so as a result of that, we kind of knew, okay, we went in October and just walked the floor, if you will. We want to be at market in a showroom. And so from that July until we were there in January, a matter of 6 months, I could go back and pull the original booth pictures. I would say we probably had 15 to 20 items max. So we, of course, had our first shirt, our crab shirt. We added in subsequent months, we added another couple of designs. And then by the time we went to market in Atlanta that first time, I might have added in my Pima collection, which was just a super small, I guess we could call it capsule of maybe 4 Pima polos in solid colors and maybe a baby piece or 2 that matched. So we're still talking a super tiny collection. I mean, nothing like we have today behind me. I would say if I had to guess, 15 to 20 pieces. Okay. The majority of it was graphic tees that we were still printing in our own home on a heat press with transfers. Wow. And then I would say 4 to 6 of the items, the Pima items, were brought in from a manufacturer in Peru. So yeah, about 15 to 20.
So when you talked about the capital, obviously, I think there's one thing, it's like people think about like the romancing of going to a show. We're going to go to a show, we're going to get all these orders, and then you get all these orders, and then you have to pay for them. Yes. Much like the gift show, in January for the holiday shows, the people that are showing holiday are showing them straight off of the Hong Kong gift show. And they will do it as a test. Let's see what checks and what doesn't. And basically what does do well, then they take that order to China and do the order with it. Apparel is a little bit different, especially when you're talking, yours is mostly US goods, or is it Peru?
No, we actually, I would love to produce domestically, to be honest with you. I have found it to be very challenging. One time in the last 4 years, I came really, really close to finding a domestic partner. They were actually based in Georgia. They were a cut and sew factory. We connected. I was like, this is amazing. I'm in Georgia. You're in Georgia. I can't wait. And they were like, slow your roll, sister. We just signed a 3-year non-compete with J. Crew Kids. So unfortunately, I kind of laugh sometimes when I talk to stores. I don't know if they think it's funny, but stores sometimes think they're the only ones that get told like, oh no, you can't have that line or you can't do this. But I run into that all the time. And so anyway, that was the closest I've come. I have not given up that journey because I consider myself a patriot and I would absolutely love nothing more than to keep those dollars in the US. However, I have not yet been able to find a scenario where that makes sense on the numbers side. Yeah. Just going back to what we were talking about originally, children's, it can be challenging. Yeah. And so for that, we don't currently, but I'm very open to it. And I'm always keeping my feelers out and would love for that to be a scenario that makes sense.
So when you guys go to show, I think it got distracted as I usually do. When you show up at show, you have all these orders and now you have to fill them.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone thinks about the capital it takes, because not very many people have a warehouse full of stuff. Like, let's show it. And then you're just pulling the order as you get it. It's like you take the orders, much like the wholesalers in January for the gift show. You take the order, you send it to the manufacturer, and then you produce it based on your orders. Wow. And for everyone to remind everybody, you are placing orders. The retailers are not giving you a deposit. You are placing these orders based on the orders that you're receiving at show, and you're putting the capital out to produce them. Like that's one thing where I can imagine, like, were you prepared for that?
So we got really lucky. First, in a lot of ways, initially we were extremely lean because remember, we were printing it ourselves. So everything was print on demand. There was like not any waste. Then there came a point where we were like, crap, we can't possibly the two of us print this many shirts, ourselves. So then it kind of made sense to move it off of us to an actual factory, which is what we did pretty quickly on. But excuse me. Yeah, it with the inventory, basically, it didn't start out day one needing the inventory that like we would today. That very much was like happened incrementally. But what we were able to do, we had made a lot of good real estate investments, buying and flipping homes personally, us as like personal private people. And so we used our own money to inject into the business. We were like our own seed round, if you will, instead of going to a bank or getting an investor. Right. And so as the business scaled and grew, we injected it. I'm not sure if I would advise somebody to do it that way, or maybe use the bank's money. That might have been the smarter thing to do. But the way that I did it was to self-fund.
I mean, I think last week we had a retail roundtable, and it was Michael from Cursive had said this bit that, they have enough capital that they can self-fund it without having to go put it on a credit card. Because what people don't think about is, as you're buying wholesale, you obviously we have the tariffs, obviously we have shipping, et cetera, but no one's really thinking about like, I put it on a credit card, and whatever those credit card fees also are part of that cost of goods. And I think that by funding it yourself, you avoid that extra cost, which I think is very smart when you can do, but the reality is not a lot of people can do that. And that's for sure. I think some people get into trouble and don't realize like how much more it really looks like than, just what's on the paper right there.
Exactly. And I think it's something where you start out and you're like, oh, it's just X amount of dollars that I'm investing. But if your business works and you grow, the unfortunate thing about growth is it takes money. And the more you grow, for my business anyways, I feel like it turned into like this cash eating animal where it was like there was no amount that could kind of satiate it because the growth was happening in such a rapid rate. So you also have to, knowing that it's going to take a lot of money, yours or somebody else's, you kind of have to control the growth. And so really for us, we have controlled it. When there was times it felt like it was growing too much or too fast, we would kind of try to do things to kind of tamper that down and keep it manageable, because it can get away from you. And I think that some people grow too fast and it like explodes and blows up all around them. So I do think like being able to control those, cost and quantities and all of that is a very important part of the process, because you can just kind of blow up.
I would definitely suggest, I know myself, and I think a lot of people, you start anything, a new store, and you get so excited, and then ego gets involved, and like, oh my God, think about how much you're growing. And like in my own stores, when I had stores at Fred Siegel, when it got to opening the third store, I was not smart about how I did my expansion. I'm just going to say that right there. But I was not at all thinking about the overall cost and the long term. I was so in my own head of, it's going to be amazing. It's going to look so good. Let's do it. I didn't listen to anybody. I hate to admit that, but I didn't listen to my grandfather, who was an accountant for the city of Norco, who was helping me. I didn't listen to my attorney. I didn't listen to anybody. I just was so blown up on how amazing it's going to be, and look how busy we are and people love us, that's literally what drove all the decisions. And it's so smart to hear somebody be able to say, we pulled the reins back in, we're tamping it down for a second, we're slowing our roll, and let's do this right. And that is, from someone who's been through it, I can tell you that's some of the best advice I've heard.
It's very intoxicating, the whole retail world. Going to market, getting big orders. I can see where it's very easy for like the most grounded person to get swept away. We've kind of laughed and sort of said, in a way, sometimes trade shows feel a little bit like Las Vegas or like gambling or a casino, because you're like, any minute, somebody could walk in that's like the CEO of Nordstrom and say, I want to write the whole line. And the crazy part is, not necessarily to me, but in a general sense, that could happen. Yeah. And so you never know if that next buyer coming in the door is somebody that is literally about to blow your business up in the best way possible, or if they're about to write a $15,000 order they never pay for. You don't know. And so it's
that,
this intoxicating, addictive, like really roller coaster of the highs and lowest lows.
yeah.
And I know what you're saying, and I completely agree with you. It's like it's a dirty mistress or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I love that it's intoxicating because I think all of us know anyone standing in a retail store, like you just opened up your holiday, like, 'cause I'm doing so many holiday rollouts where stores will close their doors and then they reopen them and people come in and they love it and they're freaking out and they're sending the pictures of their friends and they're showing pictures on Instagram and tagging you, and it is so intoxicating. And I get so excited. You can tell by my hands. I get so excited. And even with me, like, and I can see how it would be very hard to talk yourself like, okay, let's reel it in. Like that's very hard to do when you are like, because I can also hear people going, no, you keep going. And it's like, no. Like I mean, I obviously should have listened to people, but I didn't. But I wish that I had my own self-restraint, but unfortunately I did not.
Well, it's very easy to do because believe you me, I have been on the precipice of like, okay, gotta rein it back in. You're getting a little out there, but it's just really easy to do. And just the whole environment is going to all the trade shows, interacting with the people, it's very exciting. But I think you always have to like, in one way, keep one foot like grounded and dream big and the sky's the limit and like all those awesome things, but then also at the same time to keep one foot like grounded in reality.
Yeah.
So I think it's like this great balance you have to find between being creative, being a dreamer, not putting limits on yourself, but then also being realistic and not letting, not writing checks you can't cash, that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a balance.
So at what point now your wholesale's taking off, you have showrooms. Oh, I want to double back for 1 second. So people, when you said self-show your line. So Boutique Hub, we love. I've had Ashley on. We absolutely adore her.
Obsessed.
Some of the best advice in both. She's not as involved in gift. They are getting more involved in gift, but for apparel, like they are like the gods. Best of show, just so everyone knows what that meant, self-showing. And I didn't know this until a couple interviews ago, is that Best of Show is a showroom that we all know, and they're national. The people that are showing in that showroom, you set your own booth up and you are there as a salesperson. And I know for a lot of shows, you go to the show, CMA, Ivy Stone, whatever, but you go and you'll see the owner, like Maureen Costello. She's there, she's writing. She does not have to be there. Where Best in Show, you are playing both the rep as well as you are the company, the person from the company. And it's very different than signing with the showroom where you have to send samples out to reps. And this is really geared for somebody thinking about starting a line. You do not send your samples out to reps. You have a fee, I'm assuming, but you basically, it's like show to show. You show up, you do your thing, and it's a great testing ground for being able to go into a show atmosphere without the level of cost if you're going into a bigger showroom with that's national, that has national reps, etc.
I'm such a fan of that model of that showroom. I could come back and we could talk all day about it, but I'll tell you, one of the things I think they do great is they have created this safe bubble where founders can go in there and meet directly with the buyer, introduce their product, talk about it. I think there is so much value in that as somebody who has a store. For me to be able to go and meet with the person who that's their product and like hear their story, that has so much value. I feel like I'm so much more inclined to buy that product. But I think what they do so well, again, providing this nurturing environment. So it's so scary when you do that the first time, especially if you're an industry outsider, which I would call myself, and you don't know all the things and you don't, know how things are done and all that. Having that kind of safe place of other people that have sort of either been in your shoes or are in your shoes that you can tap into and be like, hey, this is my first time. I don't know what I'm doing. And they're like, I don't know what I'm doing either. And then you just kind of network together. It's an amazing support system. I was in that showroom 4 or 5 different shows, if not more, and only left because I transitioned over to a rep group. But I would go back there tomorrow and have honestly thought about having a secondary showroom in Atlanta in that showroom because, as you know, that's in the gift building. And that's not maybe where you would always expect to see me necessarily as a children's brand in the gift building. So I think that could be interesting too, but I'm a fan.
Well, I think that, as far as the gift industry in general, is that apparel, men's, women's, kids, is a perfect complement to gifts, which is why Mud Pie has women's apparel and has kids apparel, which is why Demdaco does women's apparel, which is why so many gift brands are doing apparel, because apparel sells. I mean, I'm a buyer for a 3-chain restaurant / gift store. And we tested men's t-shirts only because they had old school candy graphics on, and I'm like, okay, like play that in, and it's selling. And now we're bringing women's apparel. Apparel is it. When I was at the pharmacy that I was buying for, a 5-door pharmacy, we brought in apparel. It is still to this day, apparel is the #1 selling department in all of the gift and apparel do really well. So I would think anybody, especially your brand, to have apparel in the gift building is incredibly smart, because it is truly one of the top departments for a gift store if you can give it room and you can do it.
Yeah, I love, the pharmacy model. We have had and do work with quite a bit of what you're referring to. I would call it like, yes, they have a pharmacy in the building, but they're really like a very high-end gift / apparel boutique kind of thing that just like happens to have a pharmacy. We have quite a few of those, and I love that model. Because we all need medicine. And so we're going to go in to get it, and we're going to grab some great things while we're in there. But yeah, you're exactly right. Spot on with everything you said. I would love, again, to lie and say, oh, there was this great strategy with why we were in the gift building, and I really thought about it. And, oh, I'm so smart. Honestly, it was just happenstance. But it was amazing because I was like, at that time, Molly, the owner, would fact check me on this, but I think I might have been the only apparel brand in there, period. So I had no competition, and there was definitely no kids apparel, and I don't know that there was another kids brand. So I guess some people could say that might have been really stupid, but I think it gave me an edge because I didn't have competition.
Well, I mean, as we know, Ashley says competition is good, and it is. I've always believed in competition. I feel like it both helps you as an owner to see what other people are doing, as well as it's great for the retail environment as competition. Yeah. I always think competition is good, but I think you did it right in the sense of you had some opportunities to kind of test the marketplaces without really knowing you were testing the market. So it's all the way of your story has been incredibly smart about how you have kind of dipped your toe in here, dipped your toe in there, and have watched it balloon up, I think, because of a lot of these decisions and chances you've taken by, doing something that's not the quote norm.
I think a lot of it, honestly, like right now, I'm in so many master groups. I know you probably are too. I think most of us.
No, I'm not. I should be, but I'm not.
I think most of us, that are really like passionate about this area a lot, we're in something. You probably are, and you don't even count it as that. But point being, in all these groups, the theme I keep hearing, no matter which one they talk about, is authenticity right now is what is converting and is what's selling. Yep. And I don't even know that that's a right now moment, or if it's maybe always been that way. But I think that when you can go to market as a as a seller, as a brand, and you can meet with a buyer, a store face to face, and just have like authentic conversations, I think that is so hard to duplicate for a rep.
Yeah.
And that's no shade to them, but that's just what it is. I know for me, like I said earlier, as a consumer, if I meet somebody and they're like telling me their story about their business and all of that, I mean, I am just so locked into that. I think we love that. And I think that's one of the things that makes that model really special is when you go in that showroom, every single person in there, it is their baby. It is their blood, sweat, and tears, their retirement account, their life savings, whatever the case may be. And so that is going to, by nature, be a very different experience than going and talking to somebody that's just being paid a salary to talk about an item.
Yeah.
And that's respectfully.
Yeah. And it's no diss to reps either. I mean, it's like most reps have 40 lines, and there's only so much you could know and talk about those 40 lines. The owner is always the best person for the story. And I think that the authenticity, that word again, is I think super important. And I love that's why I just wanted to dip into the just best in show, because I don't think many of us, like I said, I just learned their format. So I don't think a lot of retailers know. So when you guys are in Best of Show, you know you are actually dealing with the founders, and you get a little bit more information than, just if you were just working with your reps.
And I was going to tell you a side story, super quick, but funny and kind of related, trade show related. We also have done the Surf Expo quite a bit, which is another show that I really love and think a lot of, and hopefully we'll go back to really soon. But we were there one year for the Surf Expo, and my husband and I, were crating everything out to the car. And one of the other sales reps that had been there that week that we had kind of talked to briefly, he walked by as we're loading the car, and he kind of laughed. He wasn't being mean, but he was like, oh my gosh, like y'all are the ones out here like doing the work. And I was kind of like, what do you mean? Of course it's us out here doing the work. But I think sometimes people don't realize that, when you go to the trade shows, unless you pay somebody to do it for you, you are the one making sure it all gets in the building and all gets out of the building. And so I think for him, it was like a realization that like, holy cow, like y'all are really doing this like yourself. And I'm like, yes, what are you talking about? But you have to roll. My point, I guess I was trying to get to, you have to roll your sleeves up and be willing to do whatever that is. If that's haul some stuff in a trade show and it's 10,000 degrees in South Florida, that's what you're going to do with a smile on your face. And, if it's print 10,000 shirts in a closet one weekend until you almost pass out or throw up, that's what you're going to do. So just roll your sleeves up and get ready to get down and do the hard stuff.
Well, those are some of the best lines I always think that have started from scratch, and really it has been built on sweat equity is what somebody called it. And I think that is the best way also to know your line, to sell your line, because you have done everything from the ground up. I mean, just like being in retail, it's like knowing you. That's why the podcast is called Retail Whore, because I've literally done every single job that there is to do. And that sweat equity is important when you're building a brand or you're talking about something, because you have done it all. I mean, you understand what it takes to build that brand.
I've always tried, I guess, whether it was nursing or in this job, career, I've always tried to never ask anybody to do something that I either haven't done or am not willing to do.
Thank you.
In the case of this job specifically, I can say I've done everything from scrub toilets all the way up and down, all the possibilities of things that could be done. So I'll never ask them, to do something I didn't do or wouldn't do. But I think that's a good part.
I love that so much. That's definitely a quality that I believe is so important. That's also the same philosophy I believe in too. I think that's important. So tell everyone quickly, not quickly, but because I want to find out about the stores, but your husband wasn't starting with you in the beginning. When did your husband join in? And then what is his role today? And then let's talk about how you segued into having your own retail space.
Sure. So his background is actually in electrical work. He worked for a power company as a lineman, which is basically responsible for the power poles, that drive the power. And so he did that for probably about 15 years with Georgia Power. And then as the business continued to grow and need more and more, we had to make the decision to either, bring on more full-time help or have him segue into the business. And of course, next to me or right under or beside me, however you want to look at it, no one else knew more about the inner workings of the business than he did. Yeah. And so it just sort of made sense. us, I would say about a year ago, over a year. So March of 2024, about a year and a half ago, he left and came to work with me full time. He operates as president, and so he really focuses a lot on, I would say, the operations type things here in the warehouse. He helps me with like some of the vendor type, conversations, relationships, negotiations, those kinds of things. So I would say he's really strong on the operation side. And that's been very helpful to me because that's not a piece I enjoy as much.
I always get asked this about working with my husband, but now you have 2 kids, you work together, 3 kids. You only have 2 in your photo, right?
Yeah, so I was pregnant. I unexpectedly last, let me think, October, I told my husband, I was like, Brandon, I'm so sick. I was like, something's really wrong. I think it's probably like really serious. And he was like, no, you're fine. I was like, no, I'm dying. And I thought I had just gotten like a bug at Disney, but lo and behold, it was our 3rd child, Jack, that we totally were not expecting. Amazing surprise, best surprise of my life. And so we welcomed Jack in May of 2025. So we have a 5-month-old as well.
Congrats, Mama.
Thank you.
So with, because I know a lot of people I try and ask this question all the time. It's like when you work together and then you go home and then you have your home responsibilities. And when you have a bad day at office and there's something that's come up and then you go home and you have to change hats, you're mom and dad now. It's like, is that challenging to do if you've had one of those days to go home and act like everything is fine? You're gritting your teeth. And then you have to be mom and dad. How is that challenging with having, now that you're partners?
Well, it definitely has been adjustment. And I would say it's not anything that we ever I don't think anticipated or planned. It really just kind of worked out that way. In our previous careers, we never obviously were together during work days. We didn't have work from home jobs. I went to the hospital. He went to the power company. That was that. I think it has a lot of pros for us specifically in terms of our kids. We're super able to be there for them. One of our children has special needs and has to do a lot of therapy. So that has been incredible because one of us can tag out to see about the kids and one stays with the business and vice versa. I would also say getting adjusted to being together all the time has been an adjustment. And I think that people who maybe they wouldn't tell the truth about that, or maybe they're like angels, I don't know. But for us, I know we have had to sometimes draw some hard lines, at home sometimes. After a certain time, I'm like, I just don't want to talk about work anymore. We've been together all day. We've talked about it all day. I'm done talking about it.
Yep.
That's helped. Also, I have drawn some hard lines in the sand or tried to with saying when it's not our peak season, when it's just kind of business as usual week, nothing unusual, is going on, we're not going to work on the weekends and we're not going to work at nights. And so that has helped. Just kind of putting boundaries in place. Another thing we've been experimenting with lately is having some days where either I stay home and he comes in, or he comes in and I stay home. And so it gives us some time to ourselves, because I think no matter how awesome any of us are or how much anybody loves anybody, we all kind of need some time to ourselves where we're not literally with another human 24/7.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I do think the last year and a half has just kind of been us figuring that out. But I think we're starting to really both get better at putting boundaries in place, not only for our relationship, but our own mental well-being, our family, and things like that. And so I think that's probably the key to making it work. Is just having some boundaries, having some time where you're still to yourself. And I think we've really made some serious strides in kind of navigating that.
That's great. Yeah. The being with somebody 24/7, because it's for real. I mean, you are truly, I can tell you that from where I'm sitting right now is that Dave and I are together 24/7. We go to work at night together now, or if he's on the showroom job with me. And there are times where he's all fired up and still wants to talk about something. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to think about it. I just want to sit here and and read a book or hang out with the dogs and not think about whatever we're working on just for just a few hours. And, he used to get like, well, gosh. And now he's like, okay, that's fair. I understand, because it
Yes.
is a lot. I mean, and we don't have kids, so I can't imagine going home and then you have these little people that need you that, don't care that you have a clothing line. They just want to hang out with mom and dad. And, you guys work
Exactly.
weekends and nights. I mean, that's challenges. So thank you for your honesty in that, because I always forget to ask that question. The people I have asked, it's like, okay, I'm glad to hear an honest answer, because it's like, it's not all bells and whistles.
No, maybe I need to come up with more canned answers, but I would say maybe I'm honest to a fault sometimes. But the other piece has been my kids, like now, for an example, we have a 5,000 square foot warehouse, but even when we didn't, my kids have always had a place at my office. Sometimes that was elaborate, sometimes it was simple, but just a place where they had toys, some of their things, snacks, TV. And as our office has grown, that space has grown. And so now we have a whole room I'm sitting here looking at that has like a little castle and a trampoline and their toys and a TV and a sofa. And so it's kind of becoming a second home. And I think for them, that's been a big piece of this process, is they have really been here for all of it. I hope they'll take away some positives from that observation and hopefully not the negatives. But it has very much been a family operation, top to bottom, beginning to end, in every way. They've been part of the journey. So that's been really cool.
Well, I can't imagine them not taking over the lineage of this. I mean, I from what I know, most people that have been involved in their parents' business from the very ground up have such an appreciation and love. And it's so built in them that the idea sometimes to do something else is not even there. It's like, this is what I know. So
I honestly don't know if I would wish it on them or not. Like, I get asked that question a lot, and I think it's really interesting. I'm always playing with like what the future looks like, but I hope, even if they don't decide to go down this route, and I don't know that I would push them down that route, but either way, however it shakes out, I hope that they'll take away the lessons that they've seen me and their dad navigate with the journey, because those can be applied, I think, to anything, no matter what area or field, just working hard, being dedicated, being responsible, all those things. We can take those in any area.
Yes. I think the work ethic that they're learning from you obviously is going to be very strong, because it's to see your parents put the time in, and you're going to work with them, and you see it is so valuable. So it's like you're going to have good kids, Mom.
Well, Lord, we pray. But if you were to go to my showroom right now in Atlanta, right now by yourself, and walk in there and go in the showroom, you would see like a crib, all kinds of there would very much be evidence that there's children. It's hidden. It's hidden in the back behind a pretty screen. So like as a store, you would never know. But they have been to like every show. We took our now 4-year-old was 6 months old-ish when we went to our first market in January. And I literally have pictures of me and Brandon and him as a 6-month-old in Best of Show, standing in that first like 4x4 booth. So they have literally like been to every trade show, pretty much everything we've done. So I think that makes it a fun part of the story that maybe might not be true of some competitors or other brands. So
I love that. When did the store, at what point did you decide to open a brick and mortar?
Okay. So remember when I told you we started in July, we were at the first market, January 2022, and then 6 months in, and then that all of 2022, we unintentionally went really wholesale heavy, which was sucking a lot of cash and needing a lot of money to keep it going. Somewhere towards the end of 22, beginning of 23, the thought occurred to me. I was like, we're too wholesale heavy. We have way too much wholesale. We have got to get some more retail. And so I thought about that for pretty much all of 2023, or most of it. And finally, what I landed on was we will just open a retail store on St. Simon's, which is where the brand was founded, where we lived. And literally the line was built around that area. So I knew that was like my most ideal target demographic, if you will. So in December of 2023, we opened our flagship store on St. Simon's. As I was telling you earlier, it's only probably about 500 square feet, so it's definitely a small footprint. It's in a great location. We're right next to a coffee shop that's very popular. So we get a lot of both local and some tourist traffic there. The area where we live in general gets about 3 million tourists a year. So in May of this year, May of 25, literally 2 days after I got out of the hospital from having our newborn, we opened our second store location.
Oh my God.
Yes, we opened our second store location at the pier on St. Simon's, which is definitely what I consider the heart of like tourist area on St. Simon's. That's really where the majority of tourists kind of go. It's a great place that has shops, restaurants, candy shops. It's just really fun. So we have a great, store there as well. Super small, smaller than the first, but it can do the same volume out of that tiny store that our primary store does.
Yeah, I bet.
So now we have 2 small stores on St. Simon's. And then, of course, we have our e-commerce business, which our website, which we've really been laser focused on for the majority of 2025. Seeing really strong growth and gains there. So it's definitely an omni-channel approach between the wholesale, the 2 stores, and then e-com. The stores really serve as kind of the way I frame it in my mind, almost as a billboard, like a tangible, physical billboard where people can actually make purchases. But my opinion is sometimes people come, especially the tourists, they find out about us, they see it, they learn about it, and then they go home and purchase online. And that's okay too. So yeah, that's sort of our whole approach in a nutshell.
Okay, this is what I can't understand is that who is running, because you obviously are not, are you in your stores that often?
Yeah, I go to my stores all the time. I usually sneak in. I think they've kind of figured out. I sneak in sometimes Saturday mornings. Like if I can get up really early before the kids do, I'll run over there and I'll like rearrange the whole store. And sometimes they'll message me and be like, wait, what? How did that happen? I'm like, I snuck in first thing this morning. So I do pop by, but I can't make it daily, unfortunately.
Do you have, because, in all transparency, I really want to I've had stores, I've gone down blazing, with the bankruptcy of my Fred Siegel stores, but I really am thinking about dipping my toe back into it. But obviously I'm not giving up my regular retail consulting or my gift show setups, which means I'm not there for months at a time. And everyone keeps saying, then who's going to run it? And the chances of, someone calling out sick and you're in Atlanta or, and you're in a store that mandates that you are open 7 days a week at this time. How do you do this? Because I think a lot of people are asking that, listening to this, saying, okay, you have a wholesale and you have 2 retail spaces. Like how do you continue to have your hand involved in managing? Because that's a whole other animal of managing it. And it's managing a totally different animal, your product, but how do you talk about changing hats? How do you do that?
It's a challenge, but I will say this. I think with all things, it's definitely matters who you're working with. And I would say I don't give enough credit or brag on our team enough, but we have some really phenomenal players in the store. Initially, we had a whole lot of part-time people. So we might, in a given week, have 5 different people as an example. Within the last several months, I've converted over to having more of full-time type positions. And then Pam, who I was telling you earlier is my wonderful lady that works in there just 1 to 2 days a week. She's really retired from her first career. So I kind of have this combination of 2 full-time people, Pam, and then we have this great assortment of people who don't necessarily want full-time or part-time, but just want to plug in days here. And so they kind of fill in the gap. And I would just say we've worked really hard to make it work. When things come up, like for example, unfortunately, we had a employee had a death in the family last week. And of course, she had to be out, understandably. And we could not find anybody for those 3 or 4 days in a row that she needed to be out. And so the location was closed. And of course, that burned. In a perfect world, would the location have been open? Of course it would. But I think you just kind of take it as it comes, do the best that you can. You know, are there going to be days where it's closed because you don't have staffing? Yes. But are there going to be days where you have a sales day where you sold 4 or 5 times what you normally did because they killed it that day? Yes. So I think it's just all about balance, and it works out. I do think for me, one of my goals is within the next year to have a store manager that is really over those 2 locations and can also help some here on the warehouse side of things.
Yeah.
That is a goal. So I do think that matters. But I also think, going back to the original statement we made, if you get so laser focused on making sure everything's perfect, buttoned up in this ideal world, that is just not reality. So you just kind of have to start. And I'm always in communication with my team. They know they can call me, text me anytime for any reason. There's no such thing as a stupid question. And normally we're like kind of texting back and forth all day long.
Wow. That is truly astounding, because that means number one, you're on call 24/7. B, you know, you are changing hats, you know, from one text to, I mean, it's challenging enough for me to go from like working on show prep that I was doing and then changing hats into a podcast interview and then changing hats back. It's like, that is very different. And like I mean, it's like the hats you are wearing are very multi-layered, and to be able to do them, I gotta say, that's incredibly impressive.
You have to be really careful, I think, as with all things, like same with you. I think you have to be careful, you know, to protect yourself from burnout, because I think that can really happen. And I know it's happened to me a few times since we've been doing this. When you're operating at kind of that, it's not even a high level of performance. I would say it's like, it's not even a smart level. You know, when you're doing that much, that's too much. But when you're operating in that manner, I think you have to be careful to like take care of yourself, make sure, you know, taking breaks and putting boundaries in place. I know I had a moment, I guess it was probably June of last year, where I was just so burned out. We had just worked so hard. And I told my husband, I was like, we have just got to take a break. And so we took our kids and took a week-long trip somewhere we'd really been wanting to go. And when we got back, I felt like an entirely different person. And so I think sometimes when you're scaling a business, building a business, a brand, working for yourself, whatever the case is, it's really important to make sure you're like building time in there to just kind of stop and take a break, because that is important.
Yeah, I would highly say that is beyond important. I think a lot of people, it's very easy to lose yourself in the whole day, especially when you're wearing that many hats. It's like one could be doing great and the other one could just be falling to shit. It's like,
exactly. And like we said earlier, it's also intoxicating, because you're like, you just don't know, and you're interacting with all these people that are like really power players, if you will, as far as like buyers and things like that, and vendors and whatnot. And so, it's easy to get carried away. It's easy to get overwhelmed. And so I think if I could just summarize it all, for you to be able to operate at the level you need to make all that happen, you have got to build in some boundaries for yourself, for your relationships, you know, and then you've also just got to make sure you're like self-care, taking breaks, doing some things that you enjoy in there. You know, if you work yourself to a bloody pulp, what have you done, really? So I'm trying to get better about that.
Love that. With your store, I was looking at the photos of it. I love the wallpaper. I love the marlin. That's the fish that you got the trademark on. It's so cute. And then I also see that you do some cross merchandising. So when you first opened the store, did you intentionally start bringing in giftable items, or did you start with just your apparel, or how did that happen?
Yes. So can I talk about fair?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know, because it can be,
it is. I mean, a lot of people are down on fair right now, and I understand, but the reality is fair plays a good, I mean, I shop for fair for stuff that I can't get from my reps, and it's easy. People seem to do it in the middle of the night. They like it. They like all the terms that it's like, so fair is a legitimate talking point.
I want to scream it from the roofs. I'm telling you, people come up to me all the time at market and they're like, wait, do you work for Fair? And I'm like, no, but I should. They should hire me because I literally feel like I spend so much time talking about the value of it. In my own store, when we first opened, we did not have anything but apparel. And somewhere in there, again, not strategy, not genius, just dumb luck, I was thinking, maybe we should just like get some books and some toys and just some stuff to put in there to go along with our merchandise. And so I had been selling on Fair for years. I have a very robust wholesale business on Fair. And so I was very familiar. And I was like, I'm just going to start buying it on there. So to make a very long story short, 99.9% of the times, I don't buy anything for my store unless it's on Fair. I believe in it that much. If they would sell stock, I would buy it tomorrow. I truly believe it is the wave/disruptor of the wholesale industry. It is actually not my primary platform. My primary wholesale platform is New Order, which I pay a significant amount of money every month for, and it certainly has its place. But my favorite of the two is honestly probably Fair, because you hit the nail on the head. They offer 60 to 90-day terms. Lately, I've been getting 90 days, and that is very strong. I don't know how you compete with that. If a store comes to me and they say, I want 30-day terms, I cannot facilitate that. I just don't have the financing power to send somebody $10,000 to $15,000 of merchandise and not know if they're going to pay me. Yeah. With Fair, I know the day I ship that product, I'm getting my money because they are the go-between. Yeah. And then that store has 60 to 90 days to sell through that product before they have to pay for that product. And so anybody who's actually owned a store knows the value in that, because I can't tell you the times I've called stores to get payment on an order, and they're just like, I've had 10 orders shipped this week and I just don't have the money. Well, with Fair, you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. So anyways, I'm a massive fan. More than that, I love that you can literally hit one button and it adds your whole order to your Shopify. Yeah. So I use Shopify for POS in my store and online. So anytime I order something, I literally hit a button and it does all the work for me. I don't have to pay somebody to do it. It's just done. So I have experienced tremendous success. I do think one of the reasons we've been so successful on Fair as a brand is I've been on there since the beginning. So I want to say I've been on there since like 2 or 3 months in.
Wow. Impressive. I will say I do love Fair, and they do hopefully, I know that with market time, there's challenges that the industry has. And, I wish it's not as easy as saying, take cues from Fair, but it has a place, and it is, it's the industry is changing, and it's just a matter of, for me, I shop both. I try and respect my reps and when I order something from that brand, I go to the reps, but for filling in products that aren't at market yet, and for finding new things, and not having to meet big minimums, Fair really is really great. So I love that you kind of talked about that a little bit.
I've seen a lot of, it's interesting, the last 4 years, it started out, maybe it was lesser known brands you might not have heard of, but I'm always looking, mainly because I'm looking to add lines to my store. And I've been very shocked at the luxury high-end brands that are on Fair very recently starting to move over. So it's going to be interesting to watch, but I'm here for it. I'm a fan of it. When people come in my showroom, I don't push it. I'm like, if you love it and it helps you, let's do it. And they're like, well, you might have to pay 15%. You don't want to pay 15%. And I tell them, ultimately, I want to do what's good for your business. So if it's good for your business to do it on Fair, let's do it on Fair. And if you want to do it on New Order, then we'll do that too. I think I think it's giving them options and letting them be the driver. If they want to do it, amazing. And if they want to put it on their credit card or cash or however else they want to do it, that's awesome too. I think just meeting them where they're at and giving them choices.
Yeah, I think that we had talked off camera, and I know we're getting into almost 2.5 hours, which we'll wrap it up in a second. But
I'm fine, but I want to respect your time, but I'm fine.
One of the things I really respect is that we talked about shipping before and how a lot of manufacturers build in profit into shipping, and you don't. You just, for your customers and to meet them and give them, an honest value, is that you charge them what you get charged in shipping. There's no profit margin built into that, which is astonishing in the world of where everything has a profit margin built into it. But your belief is that, to bring value, and, like you said, probably consultants would tell you differently, but you keep doing this, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. I know that's really, I think, and I tell people this sometimes in my showroom, in Atlanta, I think the thing that sets me apart from some of my competition, well, there's a lot of things. I'm actually a mom. We really wear the clothes. I really wash the clothes, see how they wear and all those kinds of things. But more than that, I have 2 stores of my own. So I'm not just selling you a product, having no understanding of what happens once you get said product. I truly get it. And so because of that, I just try really hard in my wholesale relationships to truly treat them how I kind of want to be treated by my vendors in my store. And I think part of that is, not making their job harder. So I work really hard to try to make it as easy as I can by only charging them what the cost is. I even give them a receipt just so they know, like, hey, this is actually what the cost was. And that's why she billed me that. But then also, we do things like we provide our stores assets. So we give them all the lay flat imagery and all of the lifestyle imagery for every season, for every item. So they don't have to have photo shoots. They don't have to bring in professionals and spend a lot of money and models. We've done all that for them. We are literally giving them all the tools, hopefully, for them to be as successful as possible. And then we also do make a very conscious effort when we are tagged in any kind of social media post or mentioned. We try to reshare that to promote our partners and try to drive traffic to them. And we also put them on our website. So if you go to my website and you click store locator, you can see everybody that we sell to. So we do try to be, I guess, in my mind, what I call or think of as pro wholesale, and really make sure that we're being a good partner and we're taking care of our partners. And because of that, we've experienced some really long-lasting relationships on the wholesale side, some really meaningful relationships. So yeah, it's been great. And it's just always evolving, and we're always trying to get better. But at the end of the day, I want to be a good partner, somebody that's easy to do business with, and that's going to take care of the people that they work with. So
I love that. Laci, thank you so much for your time spent with me. I know so many people are going to get so much out of this on both ends, both wholesale as well as retail. And I really appreciate you and coming on and doing this with me. It was so fantastic to have this conversation with you.
Oh, I appreciate it. And I just seriously can't tell you how much we're fangirling over here. Please keep doing what you're doing. It's so amazing. And I just want to encourage all of the stores that we work with, and I'll try to mention it to them and send them your way, because I think there is so much value in merchandising, and I think it can make a big difference. And especially if you're like us and you have to be very thoughtful about how you style your store because you don't have a massive store, I think it can really even more so make a very noticeable impact. So we appreciate it. And I just, you just know that when you post stuff, we're going to be there like, what's she posting today? What can we do in the store now? So
thank you so much.
Yes.